Welcoming on the show, Reena Sukuman, U.S. National Security Analyst. Thank you so much for your time. I want to begin by asking you about your assessment of the statement that has now been made by President Joe Biden, who says that let the FBI do its job. With some information right now that this man, the shooter, was acting alone and that this seems to be an act of domestic terror. How do you view, A, this development and the statement from President Joe Biden, who says also that you should not be speculating about the motive of this crime?
I agree completely. First of all, regardless of the specific background of the attacker, I think it's very obvious that this was an act of political violence. I think any sort of political murder is disruptive to the entire democratic process, and it's completely evil, cowardly, and does not and has no place in our society. So I don't think we need to know every detail of this person's background to condemn this act without any equivocation. I think it's also very unfortunate that there's already a lot of conspiracy theorizing around this issue, whether or not, for instance, an attack that killed another innocent person and wounded two other people was in fact staged, whether the Secret Service was in some sort of a conspiracy along with the local law enforcement and the Trump campaign to stage this attack. So these sorts of conversations are a product of extreme polarization and paranoia and distrust in official institutions, and they don't serve the country well. They serve further divisions. They serve to further dehumanize political candidates and public officials, and they contribute to an environment where extreme radical ideas are taking root and are being disseminated, they're being amplified, and they are serving no one but the enemies of the United States and of democracy.
I also want to ask you, several questions have remained unanswered about these developments from yesterday. The very fact that the manner in which he acted, how was he allowed into this rally, completely armed? Also that there is information about there being explosives in his car during the time of this attack. A major security lapse. And this comes at the backdrop of America having a very, checkered history when it comes to assassinations and assassination attempts on presidents and former presidents.
Yes, those are two very important points. The attacker is a local, and it's very clear from the entire chain of events that he was well prepared and very well familiar with the rally grounds, and therefore did not have particular difficulty getting in and blending in with the public that came to the rally. Unfortunately, it seems to me that it may have been the local enforcement that also overlooked individuals who were not supposed to be there with weapons, meaning the attacker getting access to the site. But when you have a mass crowd setting, security becomes much more complicated. What appears to be is that this person did a very thorough research and preparation before the attack. He knew where the high ground was. He was able to easily access to it, and it seems to me he was preparing for it for some time. Another important development is that this rally in Pennsylvania, a key swing state in the race, took place just 2 days before the start of the Republican National Convention, where Trump is supposed to receive the official nomination from the Republican Party. And of course, this sort of final event before this major next step in the campaign was sure to draw a lot of attention on the rally. So I doubt it was coincidental. I think it was exceptionally well planned. And the fact that there were explosives involved and not just a gun shows that there is a sort of serious commitment to violence. This was not just a swing of the moment decision. It was not an opportunistic or moody decision. This shows extreme level of commitment and preparation.
I also want to ask you, how do you view the developments from yesterday having an impact on the elections? Donald Trump has spoken about the fact that, and this hours just really after the attack, that he is now looking forward to speaking or addressing supporters from Wisconsin later this week, is what he said. Where does this put this campaign?
I actually don't think it's going to be disruptive to his campaign. It will rally a lot of support from the Republicans around him, including some of the Republicans that prior to this incident may have been tempted not to vote at all due to their disagreements with Trump or issues with him personally. But I think this could play a role in terms of election day turnout and pre-election day turnout in terms of voting. The election is expected to be very close, so every vote counts, particularly in swing states like Pennsylvania. So it will certainly benefit Trump to have whoever does support him turn out in greater numbers rather than fewer. On the other hand, I don't believe that this incident will change anyone's mind radically from the Democratic perspective or from independent voters. I don't think they will run to vote for Trump if they weren't already planning to do so just because there was an assassination attempt on him.
Irina, the 2024 election campaign really has a new iconic image. It's shaken the world undoubtedly, but these developments, the bloodshed in Pennsylvania, essentially will indeed, leave a lasting imprint on the American psyche, isn't it? Won't it?
Absolutely. I think any attack, on a former president, on a leading presidential candidate, on any on any participant in the democracy, is shocking, unconscionable, and I think one of the biggest problems here is that no matter what happens, no matter what we ultimately find out about this attacker, there is so much distrust in official institutions, in certain groups, the sort of trust that's becoming increasingly mainstreamed, that no matter what the final results of the investigation are, there is going to be a good portion of the people who are not going to believe it and who are going to question the official pronouncements and who are going to be looking for some alternative explanation and blaming the other side. And this is an extremely unhealthy climate in which such incidents are becoming increasingly frequent. This is not the first violent political attack in recent years. Let's recall an attack on Congressman Steve Scalise a couple of years back, which he survived, but which was also perpetrated by a radicalized individual with extreme political views and a huge level of hatred. So we are seeing a lot of the online rhetoric that seems to be encouraging political violence against people they don't particularly care for. This sort of rhetoric is amplified by online trolls that are often indistinguishable from domestic echo chambers. All of that is creating a dehumanizing climate where people increasingly are not able to speak to each other to resolve their differences peacefully, and this leads to this sort of political violence. And unfortunately, some of the candidates themselves contribute to this atmosphere. Let's recall that Donald Trump himself has made exceptionally divisive political statements, and he also refused to condemn an attack on Nancy Pelosi's husband, and in fact seemed to have some people have called his rhetoric encouraging of that sort of thing. So we are seeing extremely bad use of political violence or refusing to condemn it to score political points and to feed on the divisions and on polarization and on fear mongering.
All right. Irina Sukuman, thanking you this morning for joining us.